Thank you very much indeed, Alex. I'm going to be employing you as our PR representative from tonight. Now, as Alex said, you all want to know about the awards and who has won this evening. But there is one very special extra award that needs to go to a couple called Peter and Sylvia Blackwell. Where are you? Stand up. These two very special people got married 50 years ago tomorrow. Up to the front. We've got a little thing for you. We scoured the bar to see if we could find anything gold. You were going to get Magnus gold cider, but luckily they didn't have any. So I hope you'll have that. Now, I've just got a few little words to say, because as Alex said, these awards, you know, I get asked to do and host award ceremonies quite often, but it's really nice to be asked to do something that is very meaningful to me. This feels like quite a sort of a personal evening, if you like. As Alex said, you know, this evening is really down to the extraordinary tenacity of Tony Hutchinson, who really wanted this. He came up with the concept of having an awards for farm buildings a couple of years ago, and I think a lot of people at that time sort of nodded and smiled and patted him on the head and went, yeah, okay, Tony. But you know, here we all are this evening, testament, I think, to, as I say, to tenacity, but also to a great vision, because, you know, these are, as we've said, important buildings. I have this little farm just over the border in Monmouthshire, and it was a council farm. We know 4 generations of people who were tenants on that farm, and as is so often the case nowadays, when the last tenants retired in 2010, the council said, great, rubbed their hands together with glee, said we'll break it up, we'll sell it for a fortune, it doesn't need to be a farm anymore, what do we need these little farms for? And I went into battle with them to try and keep it a farm and keep it a tenanted farm, and it took a very long time, so it stood empty, unfarmed and unloved for over a year until we did manage to get it and restore a tenant onto the land and bring animals back onto the land at the end of 2011. And by that time, of course, many of the farm buildings had become very dilapidated indeed. The cattle sheds were falling apart, the old stone barns were disintegrating, and I wish to God you'd had these awards a year ago so that I could have met all of you and said, right, okay, I need your expertise. So I've definitely, looking at some of the entries tonight, got farm building envy. It's a disease and I have it. There were a huge number of entries for tonight's awards, first ever awards, and you know, that is again testament to this is something that is clearly a very good idea. I love the fact that they're called the FAB Awards. I think it's a very appropriate name. And the range and quality of projects that entered has exceeded all expectations. I think all the judges have been really surprised and delighted by the sheer ingenuity and excitement that is represented by this sector. So as well as the traditional feed stores and livestock units, there's an indoor menage that doubles up as a venue for two-legged sporting activities, which I just think is extraordinary. There are farm shops, there's a microbrewery. Entries have come in from all over the British Isles, so it's a really well represented national awards this evening. You've got Scorpion Engineering's grain handling and storage building, which is on the archaeological site of a former Archbishop's Palace in Kent. There's Shufflebottom's indoor riding arena cum community sports venue on the windswept Isle of Lewis. And there's W.H. Ricketts farm, shop and restaurant on a former railway line in the Brecon Beacon. So we have got fantastic diversity there. And one of the things that, again, Alex raised was that these awards are not just celebrating great design, although design was clearly part of the judges' criteria, but they were looking and demanding more than that. These buildings had to be functional, they had to be practical, like S.A. Mogg's microbrewery in Warwickshire that has 100% hygienic walls. And for those that were going to be used to house animals or used by animals, these buildings had to demonstrate that animal welfare had been a key element of the design process. And one good example of that is Mitchell Construction's new milking parlour at Wem in Shropshire, which apparently, and this is extraordinary I think, it's seen the milk yield increase from 28 to 30 litres per cow, but it takes the human beings milking those cows half the time that it did beforehand. So you've got happy cows, you've got happy people, and you've got a better product all round. Sustainability was also a really important factor for the judging, and we have also, in the entries that have been submitted, seen some incredible innovations. Quite simple things like roof lights to save on electricity, straw bales being used for insulation, rainwater harvesting, wood pellet boilers, solar panels, green roofs, and buildings that are themselves 100% recyclable. And one of the most impressive entries, again, very jealous of this, one of the most impressive entries in this category is the Roger Stewart Associates 499-watt anaerobic digester plant in Wiltshire, and that's capable of producing enough electricity from from manure, which, let's face it, we who have farms never know quite what to do with it all. They produce enough electricity and heat from manure and waste crops to power 1,000 homes. I mean, just think what the farming sector could do. Anyway, that's a whole other evening. But as we said, design has not been overlooked either, and the judges have been bowled over by some truly clever and very handsome results. So we've got Farm Plus Construction's dairy unit in Frensham, Surrey, and that has a feed bin disguised as a clock tower. Margot from The Good Life would be so proud of you. The Roundhouse's beef unit is exactly that. It is round because apparently that shape caters for livestock's herding instincts. They like to go around a bend rather than be stuck in a corner. And Stephen Taylor's Associates cowshed in Somerset features a covered feed line that doubles up as a Romanesque colonnade. So all you need is Frankie Howard and you could have a blast. But what more than anything, I think, comes through from these FAB Award entries is, and Alex alluded to this, is this extraordinary pride. You know, she said earlier that it's worth remembering that a shed always represents so much more to the people who own it. And the entries tonight reflect the fact that these buildings may be practical, they may be utilitarian, but that they are still buildings that client, designer, and builder alike can and should be proud of. Some of the buildings entered in tonight's competition are already being held up as great examples of their type. Shufflebottom's exemplar piglet unit for Waitrose supplier Paul Howard at Shingle Hall in Suffolk is now often visited by customers of British quality pigs. Some are even contributing to the challenge of connecting the non-farming public with farmers. and Roger Stewart Associates 500 cow dairy complex and anaerobic digestion plant has a viewing gallery and a classroom to host the public and interested groups. So tonight really is a celebration. It's a celebration of great design, of great innovation, in a very exciting and very important sector. So I have a feeling that after tonight, the FAB Awards won't be a one-off, the realisation of Tony's slightly mad, deluded dream, but I hope it will become a much anticipated annual event. And I think it will be an extremely well-deserved one as well. We're going to get on to the awards now. I have gold envelopes. It's like the Oscars. But before we do, the prize that everyone is going to receive this evening is a little unusual. So it probably needs a little bit of explanation. And Anthony Lowther, who is the treasurer of Ridba, is going to do exactly that.